On the last look back at the World Cup qualifiers, we were looking at the fourth round match days 3 and 4 of North American qualifying, including this Route 1 goal from Ruiz of Guatemala. Now it's back to South America for match days 5 and 6, and we begin at the Estadio Olimpico Atahualpa in Quito as leaders Ecuador took on Paraguay. And we almost began things with a bang. Unfortunately, that shot hit the crossbar and we have to make do with a rebound from Enner Valencia, which gave Ecuador the lead after 20 minutes. Later on in the first half, Paraguay were able to get themselves in the game, and Lezcano, well, he couldn't miss on 38 minutes. In the second half, it was Lezcano once again that Paraguay had to thank for giving them the lead. He did it all himself here before firing home on 59 minutes. One thing you're going to see a few times on this video is last minute important goals, and we'll have the first one now, as Mena scored in injury time to equalise for Ecuador. The final score was 2-2. Off to Santiago now as Chile hosted Argentina at the Estadio Nacional Julio Martinez Pradanos, and it would be the home side taking the lead when Gutierrez headed home on 11 minutes. In the 20th minute, Argentina turned on the style and Angel Di Maria caressed the ball into the back of the net to make it 1-1. Only 5 minutes later and Argentina had turned the game on its head. They took the lead on 25 minutes with a close range volley from Mercado. There were no other goals in the game and the final score was Chile 1, Argentina 2. The only country in South America never to have qualified for the World Cup is Venezuela, and they travelled to Peru for their next game at the Estadio Nacional in Lima. And luck was clearly on the Venezuelan side at the start of the game, getting a penalty with Otero converting on 33 minutes. And that luck stayed with Venezuela at the start of the second half when they made it 2-0 on 57 minutes thanks to a volley from Villanueva. Unfortunately for Venezuela, that luck did not last, and 4 minutes later Guerrero scored to give the home side a goal back. Peru were able to get another one, and it was one of those important injury time goals that we were talking about earlier, Ruiz scoring it to equalise and make it 2-2. Next up, we were off to the Estadio Hernando Siles in La Paz for Bolivia v Colombia, and it would be Colombia opening the scoring on 10 minutes thanks to 2014 World Cup top goal scorer James Rodriguez. The Colombians doubled their lead before the end of the first half. Carlos Bacca was given all the time in the world to finish, and that he did on 41 minutes. Bolivia were not out of it yet though, and they managed to get themselves a penalty in the second half thanks to a handball somewhere there. The penalty was rocketed in by Arce on 50 minutes. Bolivia were able to drag themselves right back into the game on 62 minutes, Chumacero scoring a screamer. It was not to be Bolivia's day, however, and it was injury time agony once again. Cardona scoring the winner for Colombia on 90 plus 2 minutes. So the final score in La Paz was Bolivia 2, Colombia 3. We now move on to Brazil versus Uruguay at the Itaipava Arena Pernambuco in Recife, a game which heralded the return to the Uruguay squad of Luis Suarez, who was banned for a bit after another one of those biting incidents. But it would be the host taking the lead after only a minute. Douglas Costa, the scorer. Brazil were 2-0 up come 25 minutes, Renato Augusto scoring it with some silky skills beforehand. Five minutes later and Uruguay were back in the game, Edinson Cavani scoring a great goal on 30 minutes. Early in the second half and Uruguay were back on level terms, and who was there to steal the spotlight? Why, Luis Suarez, of course, to take a big bite out of Brazil's confidence this time. The final score was Brazil 2, Uruguay 2. And we'll be keeping with Brazil, as 4 days later they took on Paraguay at the Estadio Defensores del Chaco in Asunción. This time it was Brazil going 2-0 down, as Cano scoring the first goal on 40 minutes. And the second came in the second half on 49 minutes through Edgar Benitez. Unfortunately for the Paraguayans, much like Uruguay against them, Brazil were not dead yet, and Ricardo Oliveira pounced on a rebound on 79 minutes to cut back the arrears. The Brazilians left it late, but they did finally get an equaliser, Dani Alves scoring in injury time to make it 2-2 for the fourth and final time of this video. Two countries with similar flags now, as Colombia took on Ecuador at the Estadio Metropolitano Roberto Melendez in Barranquilla. Colombia opened the scoring once again, Carlos Bacca rounding his defender and then scoring on 15 minutes. And the second half had barely started when Colombia went 2-0 in front, Perez scoring a volley on 48 minutes. From what I could tell, these dance moves were cracked out after every goal scored, and Carlos Bacca got another chance to show off his moves when he scored his second and Colombia's third on 67 minutes. Unfortunately for Colombia, they were not able to keep a clean sheet. Arroyo fired in a free kick for Ecuador in the last minute of normal time. The final score, Colombia 3, Ecuador 1. The result leaves Ecuador still top of the table, but they're joint top now with the winners of our next match, Uruguay versus Peru at the Estadio Centenario in Montevideo. The final score of this game was 1-0 to Uruguay, and Edinson Cavani was the goal scorer on 51 minutes. Next up, it's over to the Estadio Mario Alberto Kempes in Cordoba for Argentina versus Bolivia. Argentina opened the scoring on 20 minutes, Mercado scoring his second in 2 games from close range. 10 minutes later and Bolivia gave Argentina a chance to go 2-0 up when they gave them a penalty. It was swiftly taken by Captain Fantastic Lionel Messi. Final score was 2-0 to Argentina, and it puts Argentina now third in the overall table. And after a couple of low-scoring affairs, we'll now go to Venezuela versus Chile at the Estadio Agustín Tovar in Barinas for one of the higher-scoring games. And Venezuela opened the scoring with a fantastic free kick from Otero on 9 minutes. That was as good as it got for Venezuela, however, and Chile equalised on 33 minutes thanks to a header from Pineda. With the scores level at half-time, it was down to Pineda again to give Chile the lead on 52 minutes. 72 minutes gone and Chile went 3-1 up, this time Arturo Vidal scoring the goal. In injury time, Chile rounded off the scoring for them and this video as Alexis Sanchez set up Arturo Vidal for an easy tap-in to give them a 4-1 victory, which allows them to complete the top 4 in the overall table on goal difference. For Venezuela, however, they're rock bottom after 6 games with a single point. Coming soon, the Asian second round's final set of matches. Like and subscribe.